We have with us Mr. Venkatesh Nayak, the Director of the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, CHRI, the India unit. Recently, CHRI published a report on the rapes and gangrapes cases in the country. So we'll have a discussion with Mr. Nayak on the same. Mr. Nayak, you have what are the key highlights of your report?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me over. And I'm glad that you have decided to focus on this issue. There are very few actually who have shown interest in looking at this study, with the honorable exception of a few prominent media houses. This should have actually caught the attention of the entire media because of the recent incidents that have happened, particularly some of the high-profile cases. Anyway, so the major findings of our study, which is actually a three-part study. You see, part one deals with the incidence of the occurrence of this particular category of crime. It's rape, one category, and the second category is rape or gang rape along with murder. So we've looked at both categories of crime as well. Part two of the study looks at the manner in which the police has dealt with these cases and the manner in which the trial courts have dealt with these cases. What kind of justice have they been able to? Completely based on numbers published by the National Crime Records Bureau from year to year in what they call their Crime in India reports. So the major findings are like this. There is a problem in terms of the implementation of the criminal law amendments which came into force in 2013 after the Nirbhaya case. Our primary purpose of doing this study was to see whether there has been any improvement in the situation after the criminal law procedure was strengthened. More categories of offenses were included in this overarching category of rape. Punishment was enhanced, and more importantly, the police were made accountable for not taking action on the complaints brought in by survivors. Because it's a punishable offense not to register a first information report when a survivor comes to the police and wants to lodge a complaint. So what we have what we did was in 2014, after 1 year of completion of the implementation of these amendments, we looked at the situation and we reported on what the statistics looked like in terms of incidents of these incidents and how did the justice system deal with it, looking at only a 1 year data from 2012 to 13 or so. So the current study was primarily focused on looking at whether there has been any improvement in the situation over the last 11, let's say about 9 to 10 years. So what we are finding, the number of instances of rape or gang rape along with murder, where the perpetrators decide to end the life of the survivor so that she is not able to stand up and give evidence in court to bring them to justice, those numbers have gone up. Similarly, there isn't a perceptible reduction in the quantum of cases where the survivor is attacked, but the survivors survive. They are not murdered. There is no perceptible decrease. Year on year, if you look at the data, they keep going up and down. But the quantum of cases which one had hoped would come down has not happened. So we still have, on an average, between 30 to 35,000 cases every year. The first year of the COVID pandemic saw, in 2020, it saw a reduction in the number of cases because of the lockdown and various other restrictions that were imposed on people's movement and assembly and all of that. But other than that, in most of the other years, this average rate of occurrence of this crime is holding up. What we are also seeing, in a nutshell, is the pathetic state of affairs when it comes to disposal of these cases by the police, who are supposed to investigate these matters, find the evidence, and take the accused to court. We are finding a very large number of cases where the police is simply filing a B report in cases involving rape or gang rape with murder, which means that yes, the victim has died because of that incident, either during the incident or immediately after, and nobody is guilty. There is just no evidence to prosecute anybody. Now, this is really telling a story in terms of the ability of the criminal justice system to bring the guilty to book. As far as the performance of courts is concerned, the rates of conviction also keep seesawing. They have not improved. In fact, in some of the years, we are seeing that the rates of conviction are coming down. The backlog of cases is increasing. So it is actually a situation where the solutions that were devised to tackle this problem have not acted in a manner, or they have not resulted in an outcome where the number of such crimes has come down. And that was the primary purpose of that whole Justice Verma committee exercise that was set up during the UPA to examine the lacunae in the criminal justice system from the police station all the way up to the trial courts. And they devised remedies. Various remedies were there. I do not want to go into all of them right now because of the fact that we don't have enough time. But what we are seeing right now is that the impact of those improvements and strengthening of the criminal law is not actually visible in terms of the data about the phenomenon which NCRB is publishing year after year. We don't have data yet for what's happened with regard to this category of crimes for the year 2023. So our study is primarily based on what happened from 2014 up to 2022. Completely statistics-based data. We haven't looked at case records. We haven't interviewed the survivors or their families, nor have we engaged with the perpetrators of crime who've been punished or who've been let go scot-free.
You mentioned that there's a significant spike in the number of cases.
Yes.
How much of that spike is because of the rising instances of rape, and how much of it is an increase in reporting of crimes?
That's a very interesting question. You see, right now the data does not actually show the causal factors behind the figures. Now, it is common knowledge that survivors of this kind of crime do not readily come forward to report it to the authorities so that the perpetrators can be brought to justice. Therefore, one theory or one school of thought says that where you are, and this is particularly something which the police authorities have actually pushed forward in the public domain, where they say that if there is an increase in the number of cases, then that should be taken as a positive effect because it indicates the willingness of survivors to come forward and make a complaint. And also, it is indicative of their confidence in the criminal justice system to deliver justice. This is one school of thought. Now, I do find some substance in those claims, but at the same time, when I look at district-wise data, because part 3 of our study looks at district-wise data, we have districts in some states like Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh figuring either in the top 10 list or in the top 100 list that we have put together, that we have analyzed year after year after year. Now, if in a period of 8 years or 10 years, if these numbers are not really coming down and these districts are figuring in these top 10 or top 100 list every year, then that is cause for concern. It cannot simply be the readiness or willingness of the survivors to come forward and report their cases to the police. It's also something that's got to do with society, with male attitudes towards women, with the fact that men can get away or boys can get away with whatever they do with the women, where they have their way with them. And that is cause for concern because that has not been adequately studied. And this is something that cannot be assessed or analyzed on the basis of statistical data alone. This requires studies at the ground level to understand the phenomenon of these two categories of crime. Why are they persistent? That has not yet happened, and our study actually calls for these kinds of studies which have taken place in other countries. We need studies to show because what we are seeing in part 2 of the study and part 1 of the study also is that the number of women or girls belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes who are survivors of these two categories of crimes is not really coming down as compared with women and girls who belong to the general category. Now, what are the reasons behind this? Is it only because women belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe category are finding some confidence in the criminal justice system and therefore they are coming forward? Or to put it very crudely, they are courageous enough to come forward? Is that because of which the numbers are growing? We don't know. So merely publishing statistics are a good way of starting the conversation, of assessing where we stand in terms of actual numbers, but that cannot be the end goal. These statistics have to lead to something more. A, in terms of preventing the occurrence of these crimes, and B, in terms of prosecuting the perpetrators effectively and conclusively. That is what is not happening. And and this is exactly the kind of problem that was recognized in 2013 or 2012, December onwards, when the whole country was, shocked, shell-shocked, I must say, with the barbarity of the crime that took place in Delhi, the Nirbhaya case, which I'm referring to. And today, in 2024, again, there is shock about the barbarity of the crime that took place in the RG Kar hospital in Kolkata. So, how has the system responded? Why is it unable to prevent? Why is it unable to why is the criminal justice system not able to deliver justice in a speedier manner to the survivors? Why are the perpetrators not, why they have not been able to be brought to justice in hundreds of cases? No studies have taken place. At least I haven't seen anything much in the public domain. That is cause for concern.
So from your data, I saw an interesting statistic that the reported rape cases in Kerala are higher than those in Haryana. If we consider the sex ratio, the literacy rate, we expect the data to be different. How do you view that specific piece of information?
You see, earlier in this conversation, I talked to you about that school of thought where the police have said that if there is an increase in the number of crimes being reported year after year, it means public confidence in the ability of the police to deal with such cases has gone up. And in fact, this argument is what I heard in Kerala from serving police officers, some time ago. Haryana, being the kind of society that we are familiar with in that state, the remnants of feudal system, the overarching influence of patriarchy could be a major reason why women survivors, girl survivors are not coming forward to report these crimes. But the data alone will not be able to prove this point, because we need sociological studies at the ground level. Now, if you recall, whenever there are reports of the occurrence of these two categories of crime published in the media, in 8 out of 10 cases, where such stories are published, you will see somewhere or the other in the reportage a paragraph which says, or a couple of lines which say that initially the survivor approached the police, but they refused to file the FIR. Or there was a considerable delay of several hours or sometimes several days in the registration of the FIR. Because of this, groups working on the rights of survivors of these two categories of crimes have actually said, and they have written publicly, that for every case belonging to these categories reported publicly, there might be 10 cases which will go unreported, uninvestigated, and unprosecuted.
So why is that?
However,
Yeah.
Yes, no, I'll come to the why part. However, what we do not have is credible data. We need instances, and that can be collected at the ground level, where there are helplines and crisis centers run by NGOs, where women do come and talk to them, but may not want to go and approach the police. So we need hard data on that. Now, why is it that they do not want to come forward? Again, it's the same issue, lack of confidence that they will get justice. And Because the data also shows that the acquittal rates are very high and they're increasing in recent years. If you look at the study, particularly part 2 of the study that we've published, the rates are of acquittal are quite high. There is also the social stigma that unfortunately society continues to heap upon the survivors, as if it was the woman survivor or the girl survivor's fault, because of which they are in their current situation. That is not the case. They didn't go and ask for being treated in this manner by the perpetrators. So therefore, societal attitudes towards women also have not changed, because of which they do not find the necessary support systems, A, within the family, B, within the caste group which they belong to, and C, within the community or the geography in which they live. So therefore, the willingness of the survivors to step forward and access the criminal justice system, that is reduced considerably. But again, these are all things which are not backed by data. Unlike, for example, other kinds of crimes which get reported to the police, and then they may not end up as an FIR leading to investigation. They might just end up as entries in the general station diary. And therefore, people who are experts in criminal law and those who are monitoring and watching the manner in which the criminal justice system works, they talk about this phenomenon of burking. So burking basically means that a complaint about the occurrence of a certain crime reaches the police either through the victim or through the witness, but then the police does not launch the logical course of action in terms of initiating the investigation by filing an FIR. That happens in the cases of theft, hurt, cheating, forgery, many of these categories of crimes. But we do not know to what extent there is burking in the context of crimes like rape or rape and gang rape with murder. So that is also something that really requires in-depth probing. It is not possible for a short-staffed and under-resourced NGO here or there working in this city or that district or in that metro to undertake these kinds of studies. This is what the government, human rights commissions, women's commissions need to launch using strong methodologies in collaboration with academic institutions to undertake these kinds of studies. This has been done in other advanced democracies. We need to do, it's high time we did this in our country as well. We need these kinds of studies to understand the phenomenon. And more importantly, that this one last point that I want to make in the response to your in your question, is to understand the psyche, the mental makeup of perpetrators. What is it that makes them want to treat the survivors in this manner? That has not been adequately studied. Simply saying that this is because of a patriarchal mindset, saying that this is because of a feudal mindset, this is because of the fact that they want to exercise their power and control over the woman. Well, we've had these kinds of explanations for a very long period of time, but things have not changed. We have not been able to identify the solutions that are required to prevent this kind of behavior from occurring. And like we have said in our reports, all burden or most of the burden of preventing the occurrence of these kinds of crimes are placed today, unfortunately, on the potential survivors. They have to be careful. They have to take precautions. They have to subject themselves to surveillance mechanisms initiated by the police. Whereas there is nothing that is of any value in terms of the potential perpetrators, and that is cause for concern.
You mentioned that there are limitations to the study that you carried out.
Yes.
So what is the ideal scenario? What is the ideal study?
The ideal scenario is where the data that gets published year after year stimulates the kinds of studies that we have talked about. Now, for example, I've talked enough about societal attitudes. Let's look at how the criminal justice system has responded. What we require is an in-depth study of the case records where the initiation of investigation has not actually resulted in the filing of a charge sheet. The initiation of trial proceedings has not actually resulted in conviction. So what we require is studies of this set of records at the police level and at the court level to understand why are the rates of charge sheeting falling? Why are the rates of acquittal at the end of a trial increasing? That is also not happening. We don't even have the figures. NCRB publishes data which is available at the trial court level. But then those who are found guilty, those who are convicted for these kinds of crimes also have the right of appeal. They go to high courts and then they go to the Supreme Court. There aren't enough studies to show what is the rate of acquittal at that level as well, or what is the rate of overturning the conviction sentence, the conviction, which is found by the trial courts. Those studies are also not there. So therefore, we say that merely doing a statistical study to show that this is what has happened, these are the numbers, is not enough. If we want to really find solutions to prevent this phenomenon from occurring, to find ways of improving justice delivery, then we need these kinds of studies. We need legal experts to come forward. We need academic institutions to come forward. We need sociological experts to come forward. We need psychologists to come forward to engage in these kinds of studies year after year, because this is what is happening in other countries as well. But unfortunately, in India, that's not happening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Venkatesh Nayak.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I hope this was useful.